Hi, nostalgia buffs. Do you remember? I do. I got some more neat little things to show you, treasures, cute things to show you, whatever you want to call it. I used to like pop-up books in the early to mid '90s, the Disney ones especially, and got this on my sixth birthday, and this was like my favorite book at the time. But I really I wrecked it quite a bit. My brother would say Shane's wrecked this Pinocchio book like heck. This was my favorite movie at the time. It was back in theaters for the umpteenth time. For it was 52 years after its original release. There you see, you move this knob around and you see him painting Pinocchio. It's got his strings there. And this blue fairy, pretty typical of a female animated Disney character of the 1940s. A real boy. I can walk, I can talk. He was the TV trope of cheerful child. I mean, I don't remember him ever getting annoyed or being mean in this story. Well, yeah, this movie was actually more lighthearted than the original source. There's Geppetto giving these books. And Honest John and Gideon. Something creepy about them right away. I got no strings. Oh. Yeah, this is a very dark story. I didn't quite get it when I was little. First, there's Stromboli, who gonna maybe a Italian caricature like they of a rough Italian puppeteer in their minds from in the 1940s. He was going to do something unthinkable to him after he stopped making him money. And he felt almost hopeless, but the blue fairy bails him out here and he lies. Lying isn't good. I know you've heard that. And he lies so much that his nose grows so much that it sprouts a bird's nest. But I think the darkest part here is this evil coachman who at first he has seems like a kindly grandfather, but then has this grin where he literally looks like the devil when he tells Honest John and Gideon his plan to take these boys to Pleasure Island and engage in all sorts of unruly bad behavior, like eating all kinds of junk food and getting on rides that never having to work or pay, and getting in fights and gambling and chewing tobacco. And picks up these naughty boys. There's that kid eating a Dagwood. For some reason, I used to think that was Lampwick all that time when I was little. And look, you see a roller coaster and a really big roller coaster and a Ferris wheel. Now these images seem really to emphasize nostalgia of a Disney studio at the time, I think. And how I imagined the idyllic amusement park at that age. But I was nothing like those. I wasn't much like these boys. And you know, the Ferris wheel actually wasn't invented until 1893, and the roller coaster was invented until 1884. But so this story seems like was set around the time it was published, but you know, Disney's kind of ambiguous about the times their animated movies are set in. And the story was published around 1882. There, one of the throwaway gags is that pool hall shaped like the 8-ball, and by Leonard Maltin in this book right here I bought in 2002 of all the Disney films. He said this was cited as one of the silver screen's supreme moments of horror, and he said it's as downright terrifying as any scene made for others in live action movies where Lampwick slowly transforms into a donkey and the horror on his face and the music becoming discordant and running around and kicking, and yelling and begging. That was so sinister. One of the darkest things in animation, even if it's not family or kids or family animation. The coachman, there was a curse to this island, and the bad boys that gave in to the temptations were turned into donkeys for life, and they were sold into mines and circuses, but with their human minds intact. And this villain doesn't seem to get his comeuppance, but not in this original story anyway. But if you search online, you might find that he ultimately did get his comeuppance. Although, when I was a Adam Sandler fan when I was older, the orderly played by Ben Stiller kind of reminded me of this evil coachman, the way he treated the folks there. He made it a sweatshop. He was just cruel and abusive and sadistic. See, I always thought this was cool when I was little, how there's little pieces of paper, like construction paper you'd find at a, just a regular store in there. Just plain white construction paper. And there's Monstro. Definitely drew inspiration from Moby Dick. And he always looked like a sperm whale to me, but it's probably 3 times as big as your average sperm whale. It definitely had me thinking about what it was like under the ocean, and told me that this was not at all realistic. That he could be stuck in a whale for all that time. And he has I used to wonder why he took his cat and his goldfish with him when he apparently got word that Pinocchio was at Pleasure Island and went on his boat to go get him, and he brought the cat and the goldfish with him, and that kind of didn't make sense to me until I asked my mom that question. She said it was his family. It was the only family he had. And then you remember the pretty kind of a visually arresting moment in the vintage classic Disney animation, I think. And the fight with Monster the Whale was considered pretty intense too. So this was kind of considered dark nightmare fodder. And it didn't make at all sense how when it got reissued, when the rating system came out, it got a G rating. Not only did it have some of the darkest, scariest things in animation, but jackass is said multiple times, even in the profane context by Jiminy Cricket. There he is as a real boy. I don't know, I definitely like him better with that old nose. There, what do you think? That was the Pinocchio pop-up book. Definitely kind of for children, but doesn't mean they're not neat anyway. And I remember getting Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Bambi, Aladdin, and the Lion King. I don't remember if I got Pocahontas, but I thought it looked pretty neat anyway. Maybe I did. But this isn't the original one from 1994. This is one from 2006, but it's just as cool, I think, if not better. And it's got a lot more text. I think it's got a lot more pages in it. Pretty neat the way it pops out, huh? Shenzi Bonzi in it. Oh, now we got some knobs here. The heroic Mufasa there. And Simba clinging to a tree. They almost seem to be literally popping out of the book. I know I talked about the voice cast before in my card show, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas of Home Improvement, that kind of a heartthrob in the 90s. He played Randy in Home Improvement. He was young Simba, and Matthew Broderick was adult Simba, and James Earl Jones was Mufasa, and Nathan Lane was Timon, and Ernie Sabella, he was in Saved by the Bell, and he played Mr. Twinkle Setti in Perfect Strangers. And Whoopi Goldberg and Cheech Marin and the Man of a Billion Voices, Jim Cummings, were the hyenas. And Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, was Zazu. Moira Kelly from The Cutting Edge was adult Nala. But I don't think I remember saying that Jeremy Irons was the voice of Scar. He was in Aragon, a lot of older movies, which I think they were mostly British movies, but in relatively recent years he played Alfred in the Justice League. You might hear it instantly if you think about it. That was considered a painfully hard moment. The stampede and Mufasa's death. And one thing I didn't like when I found out about The Lion King is that I assumed it to be set in 1994 when the movie came out, but apparently it was set in no time. It could have been, 50 years after Christ was born, and it could have been 10,000 AD. But the Timon and Pumbaa series, if it's canonical, they go into this, it looks modern. They go into urban areas, and it looks like it's 1994. Slimy yet satisfying. Timon's a wiseacre, kind of with a little attitude. Oh, there's Simba returning. And he has him over the edge and taunts him before he tries to kill him, but he musters up so much rage that he's able to pull himself up and pin him to the ground, so he confesses that it was him who killed Mufasa intentionally. And then he's sent back to a pack of hyenas that's considered one of the darkest Disney deaths in Disney animation. And all's well, and we're about to... He's got a cub that looked just like Simba did. Alright, I hope you thought that was just a lot of fun. Now, something kind of random, nothing at all segued to this, but I was into Lego sets when I was young, and I think that peaked when I was about 12, and I got this one for Christmas. This one's from 1997. Here, see, it's a bank. So you look at the inside, you got a till there, and the register, and guy working there in a little office. This was only 96 pieces. I don't like that I'm holding that up. This isn't supposed to be held up. This is a city bank, not a bank in an airplane. Here. There, you got a better view of it. And I remember getting an airplane set when I was turning 9. Actually, I think my brother has already had it, and it was a present someone gave me that I didn't already know I have, but it was sure nice. And I played with it back in those days like I was flying somewhere, but when I got to this age, I just liked them to build them as collectibles and kind of thinking like it was my own business, my own little building. See, there's There's the front there, and it's got a hidden camera. This was 1997. This was before people started banking on their phones. And here's a arm truck. Let me see. This might be a sucky video of the Lego bank. I don't know. The till pulls out and there's some money in there. And the office, and here the office, you see a chair and a phone and a safe. Actually, you know, I just put the safe in there on my own because I thought the office was pretty bare. Yeah, this was only 96 sets and 96 pieces and only cost $16. Legos were outrageous. They were really expensive. They still are. Nowadays I have another one, but it had a bank robbery theme. These days I don't know why they just can't have a bank without there being all this action going on. And this is only 96 pieces. Nowadays it would be like 300 pieces. Because the Legos have gotten a lot more intricate these days. And when I started getting these, I primarily got the town sets, and when I first started building them, I didn't expect there to be no walls on the other end, and I was like, why is there no bathroom in here, and why are there no stairs? And my brother was like, dude, if Legos were that realistic, they'd be awfully expensive. Now, last thing I'm going to show you tonight is these are some of my oldest books here. And I wasn't the ideal demographic for these books. I mean, I was just 9 years old, and these books were for young adult or young adult and grown-ups. They had a lot of adult humor from the cynical, lazy cat, who was, of course, sarcastic and lazy, and a practical joker who ate everything and loved lasagna. But Garfield started being published in 1978, and the first comic strip came out in 1980. Now, this is the first one I remember getting in a book order. Garfield, Life in the Fat Lane. John Arbuckle, truthfully, was funnier than Garfield. He was just this flamboyant dweeb who he'd like stand in his front yard in shorts and holding coconuts and sunglasses and just his antics to try and meet women. Yeah, I colored some of these. I didn't get that there were parodies on that they all had a weight and food theme, and they're usually cliches, like Life in the Fast Lane. Obviously, Life in the Fat Lane. That's number 28 from 1995. Oh, here's one of the older ones I have. Garfield loses his feet. Garfield tips the scales. Garfield sits around the house. These fat jokes are right there, and it says, and tips the scales. Can't read it. The only thing I lose around here is sleep. And loses his feet. I have feet. These were published in 83 to 84, I think. 84 was Garfield loses his feet. And you know, me and my brother didn't realize that comic strips like that, they just have the names don't have any, there's no plot in the comic strips. Like number 15, Worldwide. This is from 1988. Me and Pat were like, my brother were like, I wonder if it's about him being famous. Your hemisphere or mine? Garfield says a mouthful. I got this from a friend. I borrowed it from him and ended up keeping it. Number 21, that would have been from the early 1991. Garfield Life to the Fullest, that's the 34th. That came out in 1999, I believe. And my brother and his pals would get a pen and write some vulgar jokes in there. Oh, there's Garfield rounds out and chews the fat, and yeah, like chewing the fat and going to waste. Goes to waste is another one of the first ones I got. It's going to be one of those Mondays. Yeah, look who he sees in the mirror. My brother used to tell me, "You don't know what those books are about." And I'd say, "Yeah, I do." He'd be like, "Well, you don't know what's funny about them." He was a good brother. But, yep, nobody's perfect. You fill out the curtain. So much for mountain climbing. I thought cats were supposed to lie on their feet. So much for myth. Cats don't lie on their feet. So much for mystique. Oh, this is the first one I had. This, you can tell it's gotten pretty beat up. I've had this for about 28 years. Just like a day before the movie Happy Gilmore came to theaters. You know, I'm not going to spend much time looking for funny comics in here. That would just take days, I think. But, yeah, it's funny how I look at these titles, these, you know, cliches, like Out to Lunch, and like collecting, like trading cards. I thought it was neat finding out what the covers of these books look like. Like Out to Lunch, I think that's one of the best ones. I don't know, it shows him face. He was falling face forward into his food. It says makes it big, rolls on and out to lunch. This is 1986, and like I said in one of my earlier videos, I think, well, obviously Garfield did evolve. His look did evolve, and by I think the late 80s is when he has the current look we know. Here's book number 6, Eats His Heart Out, from 1983. Yeah, it's kind of hard not to laugh at these crude jokes that my brother and his friends wrote in here. But I'm going to try not to read them. Hangs Out, number 19. Boy, now there's got to be like 60-something by the pound. Here is a pretty lowbrow joke that I remember. I see Garfield sticking his head out of the window, feeling the breeze, and John does the same and smacks into a stop sign. Takes us space number 20. Oh, and this one, I accidentally took this out when we went camping when I was in the summer of 96. And it rained, and look at it today. It's always been like this. The pages are thick. Hasn't recovered. And right around the time of my 7th birthday, before I collected these, they had kind of a shiny look like a chase card. Like Garfield hits the big time. Garfield, tons of fun. Hello, Mr. Springtime. This is the lowest point of the year. Oh, except this one doesn't have that. Number 30. Garfield throws his weight around, hams it up, thinks big. I'm thinking this was the the late 90s. And I got this one online about 2005. Life to the Fullest, Feeds the Kitty, Hogs the Spotlight. Number 34 was the last book I remember getting individually. And By the Pound keeps his chins up and takes his licks. 22, 23, 24 respectively. And I can't seem to find number 4, Weighs In. It's got really funny but lowbrow joke. Garfield was actually set in Muncie, Indiana. You know, it's a good-sized city. Maybe a small city. It's right here. Oh, yeah. See that? No, that's Lafayette. Okay, I'm just wasting time. But Muncie is about an hour south of Fort Wayne and about an hour from Indianapolis. The city itself has a population of about 70,000, though I think it's dipped. Because Jim Davis is from Indiana. Like John Mellencamp was there. There was definitely adaptional popularity with John in the 2004 movie. He, was just a flamboyant dork, but in The Vet, it was only once in a while she'd agree to go on a date with him. She seemed kind of cold. But Jennifer Love Hewitt played Liz, and Breckin Meyer played John. He didn't look enough like John, I don't think. And he seemed too cool. But Jennifer Love Hewitt seemed to hit it off right away. And she's like, "You are so cute." Okay, I don't think I'm going to find it, but I'll just tell you in book number 4, Weighs In. Garfield constantly stole John's food, and he uses Pookie to steal his steak, and he sneaks inside it and comes up to John's plate, and John witnesses him steal the teddy bear steal it and gulp it down, and we see him lay down in a psychiatrist's office, and he's writing it down on paper. "Let me get this straight. You say your cat's teddy bear ate your dinner?" And he just got these big eyes. He looks like he's not lucid. He's like, biggest appetite for a teddy bear I've ever seen. Is there anything else to show you? Oh, there's these Garfield treasuries. They release them periodically. And every Sunday, there's a specific gag, but shorter on comics and more sight gags. And it was headed by kind of a hypothetical imaginary sight gag. But they made Garfield treasuries, which showed them in full color. But I think that's all the time I have tonight. Goodbye. I hope you like and subscribe.